Welcome back to the deep dive. This is the show where we, really try to cut through the noise and get you the insights that actually help you stay well informed. After our recent deep dive on algae, which was fascinating, a lot of you reached out with a really specific and honestly a critical question. Basically, how much iodine should I be taking and how often? And that question really stuck with us. It points to this deeper curiosity about a nutrient, well, one we often just take for granted. So today we're setting out to maybe challenge some common ideas. We're going to unpack the absolutely crucial role iodine plays, throughout our entire body. We'll explore why those recommended amounts you always hear about might actually be, well, insufficient for really optimal health today. And we'll look at its surprisingly wide impact on almost every system and crucially give you practical ways to, check your own levels. It's really time to understand this essential mineral. Okay, let's unpack this. Right, so that first question, how much iodine do you actually need? You might think there's just one number, right? But our sources suggest, well, while there's a baseline, individual needs, they can vary quite a bit. For a long time, the established recommended daily amount, the RDA, it's been set at 150 micrograms. That's 150 millisigram. And this figure, it was basically seen as the minimum you need, primarily to keep your thyroid happy and prevent something called goiter.
Yeah, and maybe we should quickly define goiter for anyone who doesn't know. It's essentially an enlargement of the thyroid gland itself. When the gland right at the base of your neck, it can actually show up as a visible bulge, like a swelling there. And this happens when the thyroid, which really needs iodine to make its hormones, just doesn't get enough. It tries to compensate, it overworks, and basically gets bigger. So yeah, that 150 milligram figure was a really important step to stop that very obvious sign of, well, severe deficiency.
Okay, so 150 milligram figure was the minimum indispensable, keeps the thyroid from swelling up. Sounds like we're preventing a pretty clear problem. But as we dig into our sources, it gets much more interesting. Preventing goiter, it seems, is just scratching the surface. The conversation about iodine for, optimal health, that's where things get really fascinating today.
Exactly. What's really crucial to understand here is that the 150 milligram RDA, yeah, it prevents goiter, but for a lot of people today, it's actually a bit scarce. And there are really two main reasons why this minimum often falls short now. First, iodine is needed for just so many more things in the body, way beyond just balancing the thyroid. Its role is much, much broader. Second, and this is the point our sources really stress, a very, very high percentage of the population today just has low iodine levels. It's not a small issue. It's pretty widespread. It gives us a few things piling up. Think about, modern farming. Soil depletion means less iodine in our food. Then there's a trend toward salt-free diets or low-salt diets, which cuts out iodized salt, a main source for many. And, well, people generally eat less fish, seafood, and algae, which are naturally packed with iodine. And this isn't just a minor nutritional thing. This widespread deficiency, it has important repercussions on physical, mental, and emotional health. It touches almost every part of our well-being, often in ways we don't even connect back to iodine. It's like this silent drag on our health.
Wow. Important repercussions on physical, mental, and emotional health. That's quite a statement. It makes you think maybe some symptoms or struggles people have could actually trace back to this one mineral. So can you elaborate, beyond the thyroid, what are these other roles iodine plays that have such broad effects? It sounds incredibly fundamental.
Oh, it absolutely is fundamental. It's involved in a huge number of biological processes, sometimes directly, sometimes, via the thyroid hormones it helps make. Let's run through some key ones.
Right.
See, first, metabolism and energy. Iodine is like the master switch for your metabolism. It directly influences your body temperature regulation. Not enough iodine, you might feel cold all the time, your energy levels can just sputter. It affects your vitality, your body weight, even how your body stores fat. It's really basic to your energy systems.
Okay, so energy, temperature, weight, pretty core stuff.
Definitely. Then there's cardiovascular health. It's maybe more subtle here, but iodine plays a role in keeping your heart and blood vessels healthy. Lack of it can kind of ripple through your circulatory system's efficiency. And surprisingly, perhaps skin and hair, dry, brittle hair, skin issues you can't explain. Iodine influences the health and look of both, helps with cell regeneration, hydration, giving them that healthy appearance.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that one.
Yeah. And this next one is maybe one of the most profound, but often overlooked. Cognitive function and mood. Iodine is absolutely essential for clear thinking. The course of thought, crucial for focus, mental sharpness, just how agile your thinking is. Our sources actually point out that low iodine levels can, surprisingly, lean towards conditions like depression. It can contribute to that feeling of mental fog, lack of drive. But having enough, That fosters alertness, boosts intelligence, supports good mental processing. If you feel mentally sluggish, iodine is something to consider.
That's huge, linking it directly to mood and focus like that.
It is, and it doesn't stop there. Iodine promotes correct healing and connective tissue health. It helps your body repair itself properly and might even help prevent cyst formation. It's working behind the scenes in tissue integrity, also plays a part in blood sugar control. It seems to improve how sensitive your cells are to insulin. That's key for managing blood glucose, really important for overall metabolic health.
Okay, so metabolic health in another way, too.
Exactly. And then there's reproductive health. Iodine is vital for the health of the gonads, ovaries in women, testicles in men. It impacts hormone balance, reproductive function in general.
Wow, okay, that list it's genuinely sprawling. I mean, from how we think and manage energy to healing, blood sugar, reproduction, it really sounds like iodine isn't just doing one job. It's like a critical piece for almost every major system. Makes you wonder how many things might be subtly off if iodine levels aren't right.
Totally. And just to really drive home how fundamental it is, think about nervous system development. Especially during pregnancy, iodine is just absolutely critical for the fetus. It allows the brain and spinal cord to form and mature correctly. That's exactly why it's one of the most common supplements prescribed for pregnant women to ensure healthy brain development for the baby. Its impact really starts from conception and continues through life. It shapes us right from the beginning.
Astonishing, really. The breadth of influence for just one micronutrient, it really underlines why this whole discussion about 150 milligram potentially not being enough isn't just academic, it feels vital. So given that 150 might be low, are there like global perspectives? Populations may be consuming way more iodine without problems, maybe even seeing benefits. Our sources mentioned something here.
Yeah, this is where it gets really fascinating. When you look at certain populations, particularly those with traditional diets, rich in seafood, sea vegetables, think places like Japan historically, they consume significantly more iodine daily. We're talking like 2,000 to 3,000 micrograms a day, way, way higher than that 150 milligram RDA.
2 to 3,000, wow.
Exactly. And here's the interesting part. These populations actually show better statistics for certain diseases often linked to low iodine, things like certain cancers, reproductive health issues, cognitive decline, and crucially, these communities generally do not show side effects from these much higher dietary levels they get naturally from food. So it strongly suggests our conventional idea of an optimal or even safe upper intake might be, well, significantly underestimated, especially when based just on preventing obvious deficiency like goiter.
That really is a game changer. It suggests our perception of the safe limit might be skewed, at least for dietary iodine from whole foods. Which brings up a really important question for listeners, especially if they're now thinking about adding more iodine-rich foods like algae. What about toxicity? Is it easy to get too much?
That's a super valid concern, and it comes up a lot. It's important to be clear here. Our sources indicate that actual iodine toxicity generally requires massive amounts, many grams per day. That's, orders of magnitude higher than what you get from eating food, even iodine-rich foods. True toxicity usually doesn't happen from your diet. It typically comes from highly concentrated sources like taking way too much of certain supplements, some medications, or exposure to specific chemical products. So the good news is, mindfully adding more fish or seaweed to your diet, highly unlikely to cause toxicity problems.
Okay, that's reassuring. Dietary intake from foods seems generally safe in reasonable amounts.
Generally, yes. But there are definitely important precautions, specific cases where you need to be careful. For instance, in small children, especially newborns, their systems are still developing, more sensitive. Even smaller amounts of iodine, whether eaten or absorbed through the skin, can cause issues. That's why, for example, betadine, that common brown iodine antiseptic, is specifically not used for umbilical cord care in newborns anymore, to prevent them absorbing too much through the skin.
Right, okay. So caution with very young children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another really crucial group is people with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That's an autoimmune condition, remember, where the body attacks its own thyroid. Now, while people with Hashimoto's still need iodine for thyroid hormones, excess iodine can actually flare up the autoimmune attack. It can activate that response against the thyroid and potentially make the condition worse.
Okay. So for Hashimoto's, it's a delicate balance. Not too little, but definitely not too much.
Precisely. It's absolutely a situation that needs careful management, ideally with a healthcare professional who understands that nuance.
That's incredibly useful context, distinguishing dietary sources from concentrated ones and highlighting those specific groups who need extra care. It really grounds the safety aspect. So for you listening right now, the big question becomes, okay, what does this mean for me? How can I figure out if I'm getting enough iodine? We've got a couple of ways our sources suggest you can check.
Yep. There are two main approaches you can take to get a sense of your levels. First, there's a simple home orientation test.
Hmm.
Won't give you a precise number, but it can give a really useful clue. You just need an iodine solution like that betadine again and a cotton ball or maybe a Q-tip. You paint a small circle of the iodine onto your skin. Good spots are maybe your forearm, inside of your elbow, inner thigh, somewhere easy to see. Quick heads up though, iodine stains, so maybe cover it with a light bandage afterwards so it doesn't get on your clothes.
Good tip. So you paint the circle, then what?
Then you just watch it. The idea is if that brown circle disappears completely pretty quickly, say within about an hour or maybe two, it strongly suggests you might be deficient. The thinking is your skin and your body is sort of thirsty for iodine and soaks it right up if you're low. If the stain hangs around for, many hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, your levels are likely more adequate.
Okay, so a disappearing stain suggests deficiency. Interesting.
It's a neat little orientation tool. But it's important to say, while it's a great indicator, the most precise, the scientific way to know for sure is through a lab test. You can actually ask your doctor for an iodine measurement. It's often done through a urine test, sometimes blood. That will give you a definitive answer. It'll clearly show if your levels are good or if you genuinely have a deficiency and need to, boost your intake. That's the gold standard for accuracy.
Right. So the home test is like a useful hint, a bit of a pointer, but the lab test is the really accurate, solid answer. Both seem pretty accessible, good tools for your own health detective work.
Absolutely. And then, okay, let's say you do one of these checks, or both, and it looks like you are deficient. What do you do? Well, the steps are pretty straightforward, thankfully. You can look into iodine supplements. Always best to do that with guidance from a doctor or practitioner, of course, to get the dose right. But also, and maybe even more importantly for long-term balance, you can consciously increase iodine-rich foods in your diet. Think fish, especially marine fish. Seafood like shrimp or scallops. Yeah. And definitely seaweeds, things like kelp, nori, dulse, kombu. Regularly adding those can make a real difference.
Okay, so clear actions, supplements under guidance, or boosting those iodine-rich foods. Good to know.
Wow, this deep dive has really shifted my perspective on iodine. We started with the basic minimum, that 150 milligram to stop goiter, and ended up seeing why that might be scarce for feeling truly well today. We've covered this huge range of iodine's influence, metabolism, mood, thinking, skin, development. It's incredible. We looked at global examples suggesting higher intakes might be beneficial, learned about toxicity, mostly not from food, and now you know how to check your own levels. This whole conversation, it really does raise a bigger question, doesn't it? If a nutrient as fundamental as iodine, vital for so much, can be low in such a very, very high percentage of people with real repercussions we might not even be aware of. Well, it makes you wonder how many other essential micronutrients might we be subtly deficient in without realizing it.
What other unseen deficiencies, these sort of quiet gaps, might be impacting our energy, our mood, our overall health day to day in ways we just haven't connected back to the root cause? It's a really powerful thought. A reminder maybe to listen a bit closer to our body's hidden thirsts.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and especially thanks to all of you whose questions sparked this whole exploration.